I'm curious at what point people will realize that freedom of speech does not exist anymore. Anything anybody says can be labeled hate speech, and then that person can be drummed out of the discussion simply for saying something that someone else doesn't agree with, regardless of the facts of the case, regardless of how inflammatory a person's words may or may not be. Do you have the right to remove a person from the public discourse? I think this is something that's been happening more and more, obviously, across the country. In this latest case, Richard Dawkins, who has written some absolutely scathing critiques of Christianity, has now been banned from speaking in California because of some similarly scathing remarks that he made about Islam. Now, he has made a differentiation between Islam and Islamists, noting specifically that the people in Islam are victims in this more than anybody else. Whether you're talking about the treatment of women, or whether you're talking about these barbaric practices of stoning people to death, throwing people off of roofs that you disagree with, whatever, he has pointed out that those who practice this form of Islam are basically living in the past, and they're barbarians. Because of his, quote, hurtful words, now the radio station that had invited him to speak at an event, and people had bought tickets for it, by the way, now have abruptly canceled his event. Dawkins has a best-selling book called The Selfish Gene. It's an evolutionary treatise, and he was supposed to be talking about that book, but KPFA has informed the ticket buyers that the event has been canceled. They didn't give him any warning. They didn't give him any opportunity to address the issue. Basically, he's been accused of using abusive speech against Islam. Now, he points out himself that he has used even more abusive speech against Christianity, and he's never been blacklisted for that. And he questioned, why is it that when you've got a group like this, Islam, with misogyny and homophobia, he's criticized the murdering of apostates for no other crime than their disbelief. Why is it that now that is off limits, but he can continue to criticize Christianity without any word of opposition? And I think there may be a couple of different things that are at play here. One of them is the fact that people have a tendency, I think, as people, to not want to be rejected. They don't want to be pushed away. I mean, you can see this behavior in classrooms. You can see it in a group. I mean, you can try this at work. Just arrange with some of your coworkers to laugh at someone when they come in the door, and watch that person change their behavior immediately, no matter what it is that you pick. It could be anything at all. People respond to public ridicule, and people respond to criticism, and they will change their behavior even if they disagree in order to stop that criticism and to stop that mockery. I really think that this is yet another sign that free speech is dead, and that if you think you still have free speech, all you have to do to prove that you don't is say something that somebody disagrees with and watch them explode. I think it needs to happen. You need to speak out, or else you aren't going to be able to. If you don't know what that's like, all you have to do is read 1984, Brave New World, look at some of the reports coming out of Soviet Russia, or even nowadays North Korea. Look what happens to people when they get thrown in jail for speaking their beliefs, because that's the next step. Right now they're being excluded from the public square. The next step is to round them up and put them in a concentration camp. And you think I'm exaggerating? Look at history. You want to engage me on the topic? Send me an email, steve@radiofreespeech.com. Thanks.